Hello beautiful people and welcome to the Weekly Word with Oz. It's a working title for now. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with this information that I'm going to be putting out for 15 minutes every week, but I feel like I should do it. I feel like I need to be doing it, so that's it. I came up with that title about 30 minutes ago and that's what we're going to run with. The Weekly Word with Oz. Welcome. Over the break, I was asked by a couple of people in a few different ways, but one main person said to me, "I'm loving your podcasts, but what do you do to give back? How do you tell your audience your story, and how do you add value to their lives from your perspective? You're a great interviewer. You really know how to ask the right questions to mold the interview in a certain direction and get enough from the person you're interviewing, and they're inspirational. But we want to hear from you as well." And that's the first time I'd really thought about that. I know that when I kicked off the podcast, I'd wanted to put one of my speeches in every 12 or so episodes, but found that wasn't a way. That didn't really work out like that. So I'm going to try this. It's going to be 15 minutes worth of me having a bit of a chat every week. You'll get the Words with Oz podcast audio version. Obviously, come out every Monday. Still, this will come out via audio on a Wednesday or Thursday in those podcast channels. And then also, I am filming it, so I will throw it up onto YouTube. Hopefully it won't just be a photo or a frame of me the whole time. Might even get some edits done and put up some good information for you guys and a couple of screenshots and all that kind of stuff. But this is the first one. Be gentle with me and let's see where it goes. What I really want to do is give more to my audience. And there's a reason for that, and the way that I want to go about that is I really want to try and find a way to tell my version of things, how I apply the books I read and the lessons that I teach people, what I learn from that, and my own habits and behaviours to become better, and how I'm applying that in my own life. And I want you guys to be able to listen to me, maybe even ramble a few times and how I think about that, and hopefully get inspired by that. But I want to do it in an authentic way, because I have a layer as a salesperson, and that layer often stops me from being truly authentic in what comes out between in here and what everyone sees. It comes from a deep place. It comes from a long line of what my story is, and some of those things I learned between the age of 0 and 7. To avoid certain reactions from certain people in my life, I learned to tell them only what they should hear, or only what would satisfy them to not react in a certain way. And that was great for one thing, because it was kind of a survival mode, and it really taught me how to tell people what they want to hear, in that they could, I learned to sell things, or I learned to be able to communicate well with people, or I learned to be able to read people to know what they are needing, what they are thinking. But it is a poor thing to have from my side, because I learned not to be able to communicate in a truly authentic way. Now, many people listening to this, and many of my close friends, will wonder whether or not, or when that changed, because most of my conversations are quite vulnerable. Most of my long conversations were, at a dinner with a really close friend, I'm quite vulnerable and open and really quite bare. But I think I probably learned that when my old man passed away, or around that period of time. I learned that it really matters to say those things and to be truthful and open. But then, therefore, there were 25, 26 years before that where I wasn't that way. So these conversations are going to be hopefully going to be brutally honest, authentic. I'll be telling my truth, give you some thoughts on my ideas, and then on the way, I expect to inspire you through some of my thoughts, and inspire you to be truthful to yourself. Now we're kicking off. You'll notice each week will be themed, whether or not it's based on a book that I've read, whether or not it's an idea that I had along the week, or whether or not it's maybe from a coaching session that I did and something come up on a person that I'm dealing with, and I thought, that's something that could help the broader community. So they'll be weekly. Now, for your long-time followers, you'd know that I do the morning while they were sleeping, Instagram story and Facebook as well. I put out that video every morning. That'll change a little this year as well, where from Monday to Saturday they'll follow the same theme as this podcast, or this Weekly Word with Oz, and they'll follow that theme where I'll talk about 6 or 7 different points on that topic. just to make it a little bit more streamlined, but also, you know, I want to make sure that I'm not repeating myself too much, or that the information coming to you guys is truly helpful. This week, I'm going to be talking about a book that I read called The Go-Giver. Now, the reason I'm talking about it is, funnily enough, because I do want to give more to you guys, and a lot of this book really resonated well with me. You'll see it's not very thick. It's a fable, so it's a story told about a guy who was a go-getter, who learns to become a go-giver, and the lessons that he learned along the way. So it's short and it's easy, but it really resonated quite strongly with me. And I'll tell you why it resonated with me, is because for a long time I've hustled to achieve certain things and not always got there, or at least felt like I was always moving maybe even further away, or I was pushing away the things that I wanted to achieve. And what I mean by that is, you know, sporting examples or specific goals that probably didn't happen with. I could see those, I could focus on those, and I could get to achieve those. But things where perhaps other people were the reason that I did or did not achieve a goal. Things like living in Dubai and selling real estate. You know, there were certain sales numbers that I wanted to hit, that the more I hustled and the harder I tried, the more people I spoke to, and the more I tried to connect people, and the more effort that I put in, the further away it felt like it was going. Or relationships, you know, the more you tried to satisfy someone, the further away you were pushing them. Now, that really resonates in this book, in this young man. He is that go-getter. He is that person who's trying harder and harder and harder to, you know, be the wheeler and dealer, and the deals that he's trying to get are going away, and then he follows this pathway to learning about giving to the world. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, is that idea of giving. In that, it's funny that the most successful people that you meet and that you know are the ones that are happy to give. You know, over the last few years, I've interviewed up to about 100. So the Words Well podcast is, you know, 75 or 76 other people I've interviewed. And then before that, I had Philly Cup Friday with the legend Blake Worrell Thompson, and we interviewed around 20 or 30 people. So about 100 people. And it's always funny in that process to try and connect with those people. You know, you try and book in to tell them that you've got a podcast that you want to do, and are they happy to come and have a chat. It's always funny the people that are happy to come and chat and to give you as much information as you want, and to just share their secrets, and the people who aren't. And you always find that the most successful people are the ones that are just happy to share, happy to chat, happy to almost tell you everything you want to know and need to know. They're just giving, just givers, absolute givers. And I think they're the lucky ones to come from that abundant side. You know, you've got sometimes you've got the people at the more mediocre end, or the more, you know, they're really working their way up, that are too busy. But then you've got these people that are actually extremely busy, who are happy to sit down. You know, they might say something like, all right, in 6 months' time, I've got an hour free, can you make it then? And you have to accommodate that. But they are happy to sit down. And it's always amusing that they are the givers. And I think that's what I want to try and do with this, is to give more. And one of the lessons that I've learnt from this book and my experiences is that you've got to just be willing to give to the world. And what you expect from the world will come back to you. Now, what I mean by that is the energy that you put into the world. See, if you are a giver and you put, or, you know, you're adding value to the world, then that value will eventually come back around. I grew up in a family where we saw the world as zero-sum game. Now, zero-sum game means that if someone wins, someone else has to lose. You know, there was always that underlying thought of getting one up on someone. You know, he's a great cricketer, but I was a better cricketer. Or, yeah, he plays footy well, but back in my day, you know, there was that kind of thing. There was that core growing up in upper middle class Adelaide of a little bit of, I suppose it's some kind of scarcity or some kind of envy from my family's aura when I was growing up, that said that, you know, if someone else has got it, you don't. And it's taking a lot of effort for me to change that thinking. I can see the point of changing it, but actually implementing that in life is taking some time. And I mentioned that because one of the things that you get from giving is that idea that the world is not a competition. Just give without expectation of anything in return and see what happens. The vibration that you put out, the energy that you put out, the things that you expect from the world is what you're going to get back from the world. So if you expect that the world is a zero-sum game and you expect that if people win, someone else is going to have to lose, then that's when it's going to happen to you. But if you expect that all of us can be winners, that there is an abundance of everything in the world, and that whatever I put out is adding value to the world, and whatever that person put out is adding value to the world, and I can get that value, then that's what you're going to get from the world. And I think there's a really key lesson to be learned there, and to be vulnerable to that energy and vibration that you put out is what you are going to get back. And when you're pushing that, then people are like, okay, well let's take that to a business world, and let's say you want to make more money, then you've got to be in a competition mode to make more money. I disagree. I think you need to be competitive to be the best that you can be, but there's enough out there. You know, there are 7.5 trillion, so 7.5 billion people in the world. I think there's enough out there for us all to have enough, or for us all to be well looked after. So the idea should be to serve more people. The more people you can serve, and then if you be competitive to be your better self, and then add value and improve your service. But just if you want to receive more from the world, then serve more people. And you can see that in the way that people earn money. You know, the people that are earning the most are the people that are serving the most people. You may disagree with that, but that's pure fact. Let's take these by way of an example. You know, Apple, most popular phone product in the world, and there's a reason that they are the first public company to reach that $1 trillion mark, is that they've served more people. And then on top of that, not only they've served more people, but they've served more people with the best product. So serve more people if you want to make more money, add more value, or be more for the world, then serve more people. And if you want to improve that even again, then serve people better. You know, add more value to what you're giving to them. To come back on that idea of what you can get, you know, from the world, and this idea of competition, is that the game of life, you don't get to the end. You don't get to the end winning. You don't get to the end, I won, they lost. By the time everyone gets to the end, there's not winners and losers. There is only who you're traveling through life with. So I just, you know, along the way you will lose, and along the way you will win. So you've got to have a look at what you're doing and what compartmentalize maybe little parts of that life is. And I think Simon Sinek speaks about infinite game and finite games. And I suppose that's what I'm trying to get at here. But let's get past this idea of competition, and let's just look at what we're doing in life. And the point of that is to travel through it with people. The point of that is to travel through it with your relationships. And so I want to encourage us all to look at the game of life as something that you don't go through it and you win and lose along the way, but to win by the end, you know, to feel successful at the end. Surely that's got to be something about who you're traveling through it with. And the more that you give, and the more people that you serve, and serve them in a manner that's not to see what you'll get back, but just serve them for the sake of serving them, because you want to be that person that gives, and you want to be that person that serves. If you can do it in that manner, then you're going to get to the end of life with true, authentic relationships. And I can't imagine life being any better than that. I'm sure there are people who get to the end of their life rich or wealthy in terms of finances. But is it worth it when you get to the end and not have travelled through with anyone in any true, meaningful relationship? And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to have that one person. But you know, those series of people where you've been honest and authentic, and someone that knows you as well as or better than you know yourself, I think that's going to be more important. And that only comes from giving, and that only comes from being vulnerable and opening up. And that doesn't mean giving, your skill set. That could mean giving your time. That can mean listening more than you speak. All those kind of things. And I think that's the key aspect, and definitely something that comes up in that book. That's a key aspect to giving, is to do it in that manner. The other side of that idea is that people only really want to receive who you are. You may think you're selling something. I may have thought I was selling apartments in Dubai. I may have thought I was, I'm selling my program to businesses here, constantly peddling my product. But they don't, they can get my product anywhere. And I don't mean to say they can get my IP, they can't, but there are plenty of people, as you would well be aware, plenty of people who are offering similar services to myself in that business coaching realm, especially now. Everyone's going and getting their certified health practitioner kind of coach. I'm a coach. It seems to be a bit of a buzz. And there's plenty of people out there. There's plenty of competition. So people are not purchasing my particular product. People are purchasing me. And I want you to think about that when you think about the idea of what you give to the world. People don't purchase what you're selling. They're purchasing you, your authentic self. They want to receive from you. So when you are giving, you've got to give that honest, truthful version of who you are. And then on the flip side of that is that when we give, and this is a concept that truly rung true for me only recently, and it's something that I've spoken about this whole 15 minutes. This idea of competition, this idea of it's not if you win they lose. Think about it in a manner where if I'm giving and you're giving, there's two people giving, then someone has to receive, and so you can be that person that receives. So let's think about how else can I explain that. Everyone in the world is giving. If everyone in the world is giving, the other end of that equation is that everyone in the world is receiving. So you will eventually receive what you deserve. You will eventually receive what you expect. You will eventually receive what you are focusing on. It will happen. It is one side of the equation. For all you mathematicians out there, there is always two equal sides of the equation. For all you storytellers out there, there is always, the good and the evil, the start and the end. There is always a balance. So don't be afraid to give without expectation of receiving immediately. Have faith that eventually you will receive. And I think that faith word is the amusing part of that statement. Whether or not you believe in something greater, I couldn't care less, but faith or self-belief that putting out and providing and giving your value to the world will mean that eventually we are all going to receive what we deserve. But sometimes that's a hard path to follow. Sorry. Sometimes you're in survival mode, sometimes you're in saving mode, sometimes you're in serving mode. And I think sometimes you really wind right up to try and survive, but if you continually serve, then you'll find a way. The world, the universe, the equation will find a way to make sure that you receive. So, stick to it and have faith that that's going to happen. I've been rambling for longer than I expected, so I'll just finish on one final point. And it's just kind of follow that idea of being authentic. But success is not in what you get. And what I mean by that is, when I'm teaching my programs, when I'm working on the 8-week life hack, or when I'm dealing with the executive, doing my coaching or dealing with businesses, I talk about who you want to be, I talk about what that person wants, and then I talk about how you're going to get it. Now, Success does not come from getting what that person wants. Success comes from becoming who that person wants to be. And I'll repeat that again. Success is in who you are, not what you get. It's not about getting to the end of your days and having all the money in the bank, or having, it's not even about having a huge family or having all the things that you've ever wished you'd ever gotten. If you don't get to the end of your days being who you want to be, being your authentic self. So I'll finish with that, in that idea that success is being who you want to be. So if you can define that, that's the path to true success. Hope you've enjoyed this bit of a spiel. It's turned into about 20 minutes worth, so maybe that's how long I'll make them. I don't know. 15 to 20 minutes I would expect. Thanks for listening. Make sure you check out the Words with Oz podcast on all great podcast channels. If you want to hear more from me, you can. Website's up, keynotes, workshops, executive coaching. Life isn't about keeping score. Life is about making sure that you're happy to give and that you're giving great value.